How to capitalize borrowing costs under IAS 23. That's today's lecture. Welcome. I'm Sylvia of CPD Box, the site to help you make significant and fast progress in your IFRS skills. So be welcome to check that out. Let's go to the lecture. IAS 23 is quite an old standard. It was issued in 1984 with many amendments later and major overhaul too. Its core principle is to deal with the borrowing costs. So those are related to external financing. And those borrowing costs directly attributable to the acquisition, construction, or production of the qualifying asset must form a part of the cost of that asset. So, for example, if you took the loan to build a warehouse, then the interest on that loan is directly attributable and is capitalized in the cost of that warehouse. And then the other borrowing costs are simply expensed in profit or loss. Now, let me emphasize that this is not a choice. This is mandatory. So as soon as there are borrowing costs meeting the criteria for capitalization, you must do it. So, okay, but how? Here are the 4 basic questions that IAS 23 tries to answer. Number 1, what is qualifying asset? Because not all assets are qualifying for this purpose. Number 2, what are borrowing costs? Well, not just interest. Number 3, how to capitalize borrowing costs. And number 4, when to capitalize borrowing costs. So let's answer those questions one by one. First question, what is a qualifying asset? So it is an asset that necessarily takes a substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use or sale. And here, this substantial period of time is important. IAS 23 does not define it precisely, so we must make judgment. So in general, below 3 months would hardly qualify and above 1 year qualifies. So here are the examples of what can be a qualifying asset. Some inventories, for example, whiskey, because it takes a number of years to stay in barrels before it's ready for bottling. Then manufacturing plants that may take time to build, equip, and prepare to use. Intangible assets like software program that you might be developing, investment properties that you might want to construct, bearer plants, of course, because bearer plants like trees can grow for many years. What are definitely not qualifying assets? Some inventories, yes, especially with short production time like bottled water, that takes much shorter time than maturing whiskey. Financial assets, those are excluded. And then ready-made purchase property, plant and equipment. So if you buy a machine with loan and machine is ready to use instantly or shortly after purchase, it's not a qualifying asset because it doesn't take substantial period of time to complete. So you just expense interest on that loan in profit or loss. Question number 2, what are borrowing costs? It's basically interest and other costs that an entity incurs in connection with the borrowing of funds. IAS 23 says that those may include interest expense calculated using the effective interest method under IFRS 9, interest in respect of lease liabilities in accordance with IFRS 16, and exchange differences arising from foreign currency borrowings, but only to the extent that they are regarded as an adjustment to interest costs. So basically, these 3 types of costs are seen as borrowing. And let me give you a few examples of what is not a borrowing cost. Dividends on equity instruments, well, unless those are some types of preference shares. Penalties or fines for late payments of your loan installments and other bank charges unrelated to borrowing. So just be careful when thinking of borrowing costs. Question number 3, how to capitalize borrowing costs? Well, that depends. If you have specific borrowings, meaning that you took the loan just used to finance that specific qualifying asset and nothing else, then you simply capitalize actual costs incurred, so basically what was charged to you, less income on temporary investment if you invested idle funds. If you have general borrowing, so you took a loan for general purposes and used a part of it to finance expenses and a part of it to finance acquisition of a qualifying asset, then you need to use the capitalization rate. There is a link in the description of this video to the full guide where you can review the numerical examples and download the practical capitalization checklist for free. No sign up needed, so please check that out if you need. The last question is when to capitalize, so let's break this down. First, where to start or commence. Under IAS 23, you need to start capitalizing when the expenditure for an asset was incurred, the borrowing costs were incurred, and activities necessary to prepare the asset for its intended use or sale were undertaken, and all the three conditions must be met. So if you took the loan but not acquired the asset yet, then the interest for the first period is expensed. Then when to suspend or pause the capitalization? Well, during the period when the activities to prepare the asset for its intended use or sale are suspended or paused. So you pause the development, become idle for some reason, then you also need to pause capitalizing the interest. Last but not least, when to cease or stop capitalization? When substantially all the activities to prepare the asset for its intended use or sales are complete. And this applies also if you construct the asset in parts. So if you apply this rule to the parts, IAS 23 then also prescribes a few disclosures. So that was the short lesson on the IAS 23. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and visit my website for the free newsletter, free downloads like checklists, templates, and other materials. Bye!